Morning, guys. How's everybody doing today? So, I just wanted to jump on here and drop a couple of ideas for you about everyday spellcraft. So, one of the things that I used to do a lot when I owned my shop was the way that I would structure my spells when I was talking to people is the manipulation of the environment on purpose, right? So, it's a simple concept. What are you doing? What are the things you're trying to use to do it? And what's the outcome, right? So, getting that outcome specifically and on purpose, there's a really great way to do it when you are collecting stories from either your customers or the people that you serve, like your business that you do, like what you do for work. If you talk to your customers with a certain type of framework, like if you give a story about the product, or if you collect their stories and you tell those stories to other customers, you create a deeper relationship with them. So by doing that, you connect to them as an individual. So you're not taking energy from them, you're giving energy to the situation, so that way you can elicit a response. Now, one of the really cool things, I gotta nerd out about it for a minute, is that there's planetary questions. So this is the shit that I teach high-level business owners. So the planetary questions, we know that planets are responsible for environmental behavior, right? The moon, it's the reflective quality of life. The Venus is the living qualities. It's the life, it's the love, it's the reasons why, right? Mars is the mental aspect. The I'm gonna go change something because I think about it. It's the mental response. It could be war, it could be conflict, but at the end of the day, it's a mental response. Where is the dividing line between you and other minds, and can that dividing line be reconciled? Saturn is the transformation. It's the death state of something that is that needs to change into something that's going to be, right? Mercury is the communication between you and somebody else and different dialogues that occur. Thanks, Brujo. I appreciate you, bro. In the sun, we know the sun gives light, right? Light is the resonance pattern of all the things that we see. It's the compression of all of the vibrations and the particles in union in all their different ways of unity. So that way, as people see the world, they're seeing the light impression of what makes a lamp, what makes a candle, what makes a spell, what makes a person, what makes an animal, a dog, the behaviors, what have you, right? Jupiter also gives for the rulership of it. So it gives the framework of what is the relationship between that lamp, between that candle, between it's the connective line of the free energy that moves. And so we get into the zodiac, the times, the 12 states, the 13 moons, or the 13 stones of heaven, or whatever it is, right? And then we have the universe, the whole totality and sum of everything. Now, I found this really great book in a used bookstore here in San Diego. It's no longer around. It was great. It was one of those two-story deals. Had a bunch of cats in it. Fucking awesome place to hang out. But inside of there was a book built by a astrological student, or a teacher of astrology, who was also a psychologist. So he went through, using psychology, and broke down all of the planets and the principal questions they're responsible for. So, the moon is responsible for the questions of in what way will something occur? All of their conditions, the reflection of them, in what way they'll be responsible for you understanding as they are, right? But how are they going to be understood by your customer? How are they going to be understood by the other person on the other side of that discussion, right? Venus, while it rules life, it also rules the conditions of when. When does it occur for them? When does it occur for you? When does it occur for the ingredients? What is the timing of it? What does the life pattern look like? So there's a journey in that. You know, Mars, while it's all mental, it also rules the questions of manifestation, of how much. How big will that thing occur? What are the quantities? What's the desire behind that quantity? What are the specific conditions in relation to how much manifestation is going to occur? So you can focus that in when you're working your spells and you're using a Martian quality. So not only do you call upon the gates of Mars, but you can refine it down to the very words that you use to describe it what you do, why you're doing it, what spells you're doing in private, or what spells you take on for client work, or what spells you're creating in your market in order to be able to serve your customers better with the information that's in your head, so that you can refine these kinds of things. All right. Saturn, while it's transformation, it's also the from where state, right? Where is its origin? What's its genesis? Where did it come from? And what's the path to get there, right? Because Mercury rules the question of where. Where is the manifestation going? Is it going to be on a Tuesday that you do the spell so that it manifests by Friday? Because you've pulled in those qualities of Venus. Is it going to be within days or within hours that you're able to make something manifest instead of being reliant on, oh, it might happen someday? Like, no, you can compress manifestation so that it occurs instantaneously if you do it right. You know? Sun rules, while it is the light vibrations of everything, it also gives the what kind. What are the results? What are the meaning? What is the meaning when it's shared with everything in relation to it? So that way you know the relationships and you can balance those relationships. Right? Jupiter, it rules the questions of why. What are the purpose? What are the reasons to cause? What is the justification for it? So if you have the right kind of justification for it, then you are able to cast properly. You are in congruency with the unity of the power that you're creating. So that as you move forward with your spellcraft, you're able to think about these considerations so that you can apply them in a better way. So that you have these opportunities to really get into those next levels of operations. You know, the zodiac and the 12 questions. What are they? Where are they coming from? Like, what? It's everything involved. Like, what time are you working in? Is it going to be the time of Aries when you're using it as the child motif? Is it going to be for Libra when you're balancing out your conditions? Right? You don't have to have all 12 at once. You can put specific ones in specific ways, especially if you've got the spell bottles that'll do that. Or you've got the symbols or the ingredients of those planets or those forces, right? So, like I said, the zodiac rules the questions of what. The universe rules the questions of whether or not there's conditional details. What are the side effects of your spellcraft? So that way, as you pull your spells into creation, you have the conditions already accounted for by your ingredient list. You've already structured your ingredient list. So when you're going to write your spells down, you can clearly state, this is the story that the spell is responsible for creating. It's the narration behind it, right? This is going to be the ingredient list that I require, and this is going to be the spoken component. This is going to be how I put it all together. This is going to eliminate the verbs to be in the future, because it is right now. I am creating this compression, the story, the ingredients, and the methodology, all of it together. And I have created my spell. And so when I release my spell to the aether, I've created it for the spirits. And so by the time that that spell is done, those energies are compressed. I've stepped into a new world if I've created a gate. Because the foundation of the gate magic is that you create the space where the world is not. You compress your spell into a singularity. And so that way when you open the gates in your spell work, you've already created the space where your gate exists. It's the path from this world to the plane of your desire and then back again. So as it goes through that loop, that archway, that connective bridge, you've already connected those energies to bring it to this planet so that way when you step through back into the regular world, outside of your circle, outside of your array, outside of your space and temple, you're now in the world where those conditions are manifest. You now exist in a world where your spell has come to pass. Not because of some intangible belief that the energies are going to be there, but because you have set your intent to be that those are the ingredients, that's the words, that's the mechanic that you're using, so that the gate is open, so that the way is made. And by that way, it's the road that the course does not turn back, because once you set forth into these places, once you kind of start applying these kinds of frameworks, then your spells get more dense. Like, the results become behavioral. They affect the people that you cast them on differently. They work on a much more visceral level for getting into the nature of what people are, right? So like, if you need to create a barrier spell, right, and you need to be more reflective, like agrimony is a great herb for that. Like it's basically like the mirror lining on the back of a piece of glass, so that way when shit comes through you, it'll bounce back off and go at that, you know. But then we look at a little bit deeper, like with the planetary conversations. So you've got the sun is also for the astrological sign of Leo. So if you go back to the questions of what kind of manifestation are you going for, the times in Leo, or if you're going to speak to somebody who is a Leo, you can kind of get into them a little bit easier. So if you plan for that kind of understanding in your spellcraft, you can go deeper with them and into that with them. So, it's like as you go through, like Moon is for Cancer, Mercury is for Gemini and Virgo, Venus is for Taurus and Libra, Mars is for Aries and Sagittarius, Jupiter is just straight up Sagittarius, Saturn is for Capricorn and Aquarius, Neptune is for Pisces, Uranus is for Aquarius, and Pluto is for Scorpio, at least according to the recommendations that I have for this. Now, the Black Magic Evocation of the Shemhamem Farash, Aeon Sophia put it out back in 2016. It's got a full list of the planets and the 4 elemental ingredients. So, like, it goes through all of your basic herbs, right? The classical herbs from back in the day is like the sun is for frankincense, the moon is for jasmine, Mars is for dragon's blood, Mercury is for European mandrake, Venus is the tonka beans, Jupiter is the star anise, Saturn is myrrh, Neptune is willow, Uranus is clove, and Pluto is the argaric mushrooms, or you could use Dusty Miller if you don't want to get your hands screwy with the argaric. Be careful with that stuff for the people that have sensitivities to mushrooms and things like that, because that can kill you if you're not careful. Other ingredients that I use for Aries is dragon's blood, Taurus is cassia, Gemini is the cinnamon, which is different from cassia. So similar family, different effect. One's more fiery. For Cancer, I use onycha. It's a oyster leavings. For Leo, I use frankincense. For Virgo, I use sandalwood. For Libra, I use galbanum. For Scorpio, opoponax. Sagittarius, I use saffron. Capricorn is colophony or pine resin. Aquarius, again, I use galbanum. Pisces, I use storax. So those are the ones that I use out of the Kabbalistic ingredient arrangements to tap into the astrological and planetary powers, so that way they get included when I need to work with those times and those behaviors, like I discussed earlier. It's going really, really deep into which planets and which ingredients represent what. Also, which letter represents what. Like, A is Saturn, or it's the air and the aether. B is the moon, or it's Mercury. C is Pisces, or the moon. D is Venus, or Jupiter. It's E is going to be Jupiter or Aries. F is Mercury or Taurus. G is Venus or Gemini. H is Cancer. I is going to be Leo. J is Virgo. K is either Mars or Jupiter. L is Libra or Venus. M is Saturn or water. N is Scorpio. O is Sagittarius. P is Venus or Capricorn. Q is Gemini or Mars. R is the moon or Aquarius. S is Pisces. T is Leo or fire. U is Taurus or fire. V is Saturn or the earth or Taurus. W is, in the elemental arrangements, the fire of earth. X is the water of earth. Y would be the air of earth. And Z would be the earth of earth. So going through and structuring out the barbaric word clusters, what you can do is, like, if you go back through and you get your hands on the Simon Necronomicon, you can go through and figure out the elemental arrangements of those letters in the barbaric words when you're summoning up the spirits of Marduk. Using this list, you can make any arrangement of planetary bodies out of herbs. You can conjure up whatever you want, because using this list of understanding what planets rule the letters of the names that you're about to conjure gives you that opportunity to do so in such a way that you don't have to worry, because you created on purpose and exactly. So that as you build out your thing, whatever your thing is. Like, I got really creative a while back and did the whole, I'm gonna conjure up a spirit of the OTO, right? Well, what would a business owner's OTO look like? Well, it's a one-time offer. That's the acronym for it, right? So I got dirt from the grave of the Garden of Innocence here in San Diego in one of the cemeteries, and in that cemetery they have a place just where they put dead kids. Um, Adam was the headstone for the first one buried. The premature child that, the nameless children, right? So it's inviting them back so that they can live in new forms. So I use that as the ingredient to make the spell of the OTO. So I use the ingredients of OTO, bound it with that spirit, made a spell totem for it, and then put it on my altar and gave it the spell of animation, calling on the Maiden of Life, the Lady of Life, and the Crone of Life to give the entire spectrum. So that way there is a deeper connection to it. And then I included the other ingredients of what I was working on at the time. And that shit, it's gangbusters. If you need something to like fly, like, call on that spirit. Like, I call the spirit of the OTO. Like, shit is legit. So these are the kinds of things where magic goes deeper than just the spells that we're working on, but into the very words and the foundation of the language that we use. So I appreciate y'all watching, and I will chat with y'all later, my friends.